Welcome to the latest installment of an Extraordinary Recap. It is your boy, Jay Connor.
And this is Alex Hardy.
And this season, we're recapping every single episode of HBO's smash hit Insecure. But before we get rocking, I want to take a moment to thank everyone for, all your comments, all your tweets, all your inbox messages, your emails, your texts, and most importantly, the thousands of downloads y'all been hitting us off with.
Yes.
And all this love we're getting on these recaps. So thank y'all for listening. We appreciate it very much. And yeah, thank y'all for checking us out. So let's get right to it. In tonight's episode, we got a lot going on. After reconvening at Kiss and Grind last episode, Issa and Daniel have crossed the T's and dotted the I's on the terms of their friends with benefit contract. Or have they? Because after completely fucking things up with Daniel last time, Issa makes it crystal clear that she's emotionally unavailable and enjoying the spoils of her quote-unquote Hocation roster. However, Daniel appears to want a little more from their situationship. So keeping all of this in mind, is this dynamic doomed to get messy? Let's start with Alex.
I think it is. Just knowing just the nature of how things go and how Issa's track record is and how inevitability of, her reconnecting with Lawrence, I think it's bound to get messy. I do like that she's choosing to be open, or so she says from the jump, about whatever they're about to get into. But I think there's some drama afoot, but I hope at least in the near future there's at least a proper sex scene for Issa.
George, what you got?
Issa really sucks at being a hoe. And
do better at your hoeing.
I think as we continue to watch, she really struggles to have a good time schedule of how she does her hoeing and putting Daniel off. And it just was wow, she's really not setting this up for her best advantage to be able to get all her hoeing out the way she want to hoe. He oh, you available tonight? It's girl, be available. What are you doing? You messing up your rotation, trying to still go on dates with people you looking for a man, but then also talk about you want to be a hoe. Who going on dates to hoe? I don't know. She got it a little messed up, but it's going to be messy. It's going to be a very messy ride when it's all said and done.
Well, my question is, it's obvious that Daniel wants a little bit more out of the situation, which was kind of confirmed by Issa at the end being just so we're clear, that, it is what it is, like dudes tell women, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So at what point is Daniel going to be on some yo, this is the second time you tried to play me. What's good? You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting because it's Issa is kind of doing this weird, I guess she waiting on Lawrence. It's kind of even though she well, I'll put it this way. Molly told her what Lawrence said, but at this point, the way he's stalking her, it seems like maybe Molly didn't tell Issa the truth about what Lawrence said, which I think will probably come out later in other episodes. But yeah, it is interesting to see how long Daniel is kind of gonna sit and wait for Issa to step up, especially because Issa was in the same situation to the reverse, kind of waiting on Lawrence to step up for so many years. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic of how her narrative has shifted to where before she was waiting on somebody to step up, and now she's in the position of being the asshole that Lawrence was to her and Daniel now kind of waiting on her to step up.
So taking this Issa and Daniel dynamic into account, is it ever a good idea to pursue a friends with benefits situation with someone you've had prior relations with? Because it's one thing to explore it for the first time, but if you already have that back catalog, that history there, is it ever a good idea to revisit that?
It could be tricky because you kind of have the experience. She's test driven, the situation already. So
the dick.
She knows, so basically. So she knows what she's getting into. But I just think with them especially, they're gonna have to be sure that like she said, she's not about this feeling shit right now. She got to stick to that and make sure that he's on the same page too. That it's really just is we fucking or what? It's not building up to something else. It's okay as long as everybody's on the same page and somebody's not getting their feelings invested in. It's just it's some hoe shit. Keep it as hoe shit and respect the boundaries and shit, and everybody will be okay.
Yeah, that's what George was saying. George was saying yo, you gotta either you're dating or you're hoeing. You can't hoe and date.
Right.
Yeah, it's a blurry line sometimes. When you get romantic and you like each other and you want to do date nighty stuff and boyfriend and girlfriend adjacent stuff, you got to draw those boundaries clear.
Yeah,
somebody's gonna get their feelings hurt.
Yeah. Now, in other news, in light of the wage disparity between Molly and her coworkers, Lil Rel, with the pastor body, suggests that Molly bounce for another firm. But that's just the tip of the iceberg as Molly invites Lionel to her parents' wedding vow renewal ceremony. But during the festivities, Molly learns that her father cheated on her mother, which not only hurls her utopian expectations of love and marriage into a tailspin, but forces her to confront her own feelings, or lack thereof, for Lionel, while simultaneously being way more into Dro than she cares to admit, which of course leads to her and Dro breaking the bed in half. Because I mean, it wouldn't be insecure if somebody wasn't fucking. So, how do we feel about Molly's decision making in this episode?
Go ahead, George.
I feel like, and I made a tweet about it, which right now it's doing a lot. It was like, you know, the gag is really going to be like when Molly finds out that she's the homewrecker in her two friends' marriage that somebody was to her parents' marriage. I don't think she's really thought that part through of like, because again, like if you keep inviting your friend somewhere and he has a wife and she just happens to not show up to any of the events, you might want to interrogate what the wife was going on too. Because like your parents' engagement, that's an event that like a couple comes to. Like, oh yeah, this is my wife. Like that's not something that somebody just keeps solo doloing, showing up to and being like, oh, we in an open marriage. It's like, yeah, but an open marriage still means y'all are together often, just not when, you know, y'all have sexual needs and maybe apart. Or, you know, like what are the terms of this open marriage? Because right now it just don't seem like y'all together at all. Or if y'all separated, you know, he ain't really telling you the full truth. But watching
So you think he's
Molly.
lying?
Oh, yeah,
So
definitely.
Okay.
And again, maybe it'll play out that way. Maybe it won't. You know, Molly has for the first two seasons, has been like caught up in that whole ideal of, you know, Ruby D and Ozzie Davis, Barack and Michelle, Jay-Z, Beyonce. But even Jay-Z and Beyonce told everybody, like, I don't know what the fuck y'all thought was going on over here, but here's my version, here's his version. And then together we go probably make another version and make a lot of money. But it ain't all roses, you know, over here either. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how she's navigating this. I would have hoped that she would have still stuck to what she wanted for herself, even if her parents didn't have that. But, you know, we'll see going forward because she definitely fucked her friend. I still don't understand why she's not going after Sterling, though. Like, he's like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, Alex, what do you think about Molly's decision making in this episode?
Well, first of all, I think that like she had to see reality at some point. Like you said, George, everything is not all roses, and you know she got to get that reality check. Like every you know, shit ain't all roses. No marriage is perfect 100% of the time. Like that, whatever veneer her parents put up, it came crashing down. But now she has to deal with it. But I think that I'm glad that she actually went and got her some peen. I think that it will do wonders. I think it'll be instantly gratifying, but I'm sure there will be some drama to come. I don't think Joe's being completely open as far as maybe the terms of his marriage, perhaps. But I as someone who's pro ho, I'm all about Molly getting it in and you know, getting her womb explored.
I mean, to George's point, though, the fact that Dro is conveniently single every time he runs into Molly, it's a little suspicious. I'm not ready to outright say that he's lying yet. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know. The shit ain't adding up. You know what I'm saying? Like, Candace be out here. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of wondering what Candace be doing since allegedly, it's an open marriage. Now, another thing to keep in mind is Tasha's fuck nigga rant. Because if you compare the two situations and how they both brought men around the family when they probably shouldn't have, is Molly guilty of doing the same thing with Lionel?
That's a good question.
Is Molly a fuck? What is it? A fuck woman? A fuck girl? A fuck? I don't know. Sister?
I don't think Molly is a fuck sister as much as she's about putting on the appearance that she has all her shit together. And I say that because if you think about the one episode with, I can't think of what his name is, the Jadena, when they was faking it for her friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last season?
Yeah. Like she just has a habit of wanting to put on like, oh yeah, like me and my man are great. And I think that's where you saw like that little slip up when she didn't know what dude's real job was. It was like, I'm not going to show up to my parents' anniversary and it not look like I don't, like me as a successful Black woman, I'm not following in the same lines as them. And so I think it just all came tumbling down. Like,
you know what though? To your point though, as is, you know, common knowledge, every character on the show is dealing with some level of insecurity. And to your point, Molly's insecurities have always been centered around perception. So it's interesting that the one thing that she's always treasured as far as like, how I look when I'm with a man, how this should look, has been just shattered with this revelation. You know what I mean? Because then it's just like, well, damn, I believe this thing, and this is like the pinnacle. This is my example. This is like everything that I've always pursued, and it's a lie. So it's like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying?
Her reaction was quite dramatic.
You think it was dramatic?
Storming out and like, putting that guilt trip on her mom. Why? How could you stay? Boom, boom. Like, bitch, mind your business. That's grown folk shit.
I don't know if I necessarily agree.
Because she built her whole life on it.
George.
I was gonna say she built her whole life on it, and so that was like I saw a lot of reaction like, oh, that was way too dramatic for the day. I was like, maybe y'all haven't been watching the same Insecure, but this girl literally built her whole life on one thing that.
That's true.
And it's like parallel to being Mary Jane. Like, being Mary Jane, she built her whole life on her parents' shit, and now we're starting to see the unraveling of her parents' flaws in the past and how that played out in her life. And I think it's the same thing with Molly. Molly was searching for that type of love so badly, and to find out that basically what she had built in her own mind as what she was going to go into was not all fake, but it wasn't as pretty as the picture she had painted to herself.
That's picture perfect.
I think that can be.
Not to say she doesn't have a right to be upset.
Definitely.
Like, yeah, of course, that's your parents, and your father did this horrible thing to your mom. But I'm just saying in the moment, just like the guilt trip, like I think guilt trips are whack. But like just that, how could you stay? Like, without knowing the whole story, and plus in that time, back in the day, you just stuck around and you just stayed married. Like it was a different time, different age. So there's more she has to learn. But yes, it was a reality check. It was unfortunate, but.
And I mean, if they were at an anniversary party, I'm sure like I would have been Hennessy'd up by the time my parents had finished the shit. So she probably, a couple of cocktails in, somebody would have said, "Oh, well, your father was talking something to your mom." We probably would have fought. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? I would have probably fought my father at the fucking anniversary party, like, because like I'd be like, "Wait, what?" I wouldn't care if it happened 4 years before I was born. I would have been like. Trying to find who she was. I'd have been traveling to her house. Like, you know what I mean? You do crazy shit when you're drinking. So I think,
Now, another question is, if Molly is not, and I mean, to the point I made earlier about the fuck nigga rant, if Molly is clearly not interested in Lionel like that, and it's more about perception, and it's more about kind of this maintaining this facade, why is she entertaining this man if she's not? Why do so many of us entertain people that we're clearly not invested in?
Appearances.
Loneliness.
Is that the root of it?
She wants that.
Is that the root of it? Loneliness or appearances?
Well, I think you can only like fill the voids with so much work and so much friends. And I think that's one thing that we as people have never worked on, like having friendships that were intimate that could fill like the intimacy void that I think people search for. It's like you have friends and you're good with your friends and everything is dope with your friends, but then you like be like, oh, but I need a partner for these type of things, and never realize that some of those things that you want your partner to fill that really, really good friends could fill. And so when you are like devoid of that and you go to bed every night alone, it's like, well, shit, I'd just rather have some piece of happiness than nothing at all. And so you just kind of, end up going home with the ugly dude from the club.
Damn, that was spoken from personal experience on that one.
I mean,
George, you watch out if you in the club, because George taking home all the ugly niggas. You know what I'm saying?
Depending on the night. End of the night.
No shade.
He said, I'm Hennessy'd up.
Right. I mean, I've woken up next to Bluto before. Like, there's no shade about that. But it's like, after you do it, you kind of interrogate yourself in the morning, like, why did you do that? You like, oh, yeah, it has been kind of lonely, just writing and working by myself. So I guess, I'm just willing to kind of fill that void with anything for right now until I can figure it out. And I think that's what Molly is kind of doing.
But is that the right thing to do? Should we collectively feel bad, as well as Molly, for literally wasting people's time just because we're trying to get a nut?
Yeah. Well, she's being a fuck nigga then.
Because, I mean, I think it's one thing if you lay out the terms of the situation beforehand, right? Versus like, oh, well, Lionel, you're a good guy. And she's never really told him like, well, you know what? I'm not really into you. But if this is going to be like us just enjoying each other and we just do what we do, that's one thing. but she's never had that conversation with him. So he's under the impression you bringing me around your parents. You know what I'm saying? We spending this time together. You don't really know what the fuck I do. You don't really know shit about me, but you still, you know, playing that role. If the roles were reversed, y'all would be, you know, people be quick to call him or her a fuck nigga. You know what I'm saying?
I think we're probably going to see her go through some type of change as far as like realizing that picture perfect image she's chasing is some bullshit, you know, especially between her parents and, you know, maybe like her getting that quote unquote keeping that good job or that job she's sticking to for whatever kind of reason to kind of keep up. You know, this is what people expect of me. I'm making people proud. You know, I'm doing all the right things. And maybe she's going to enter a period of, maybe she's going to have her own little vocation and getting her life. Maybe fucking Dro was the start of that. But, you know, I just think that she's definitely going to just see, like, you know, chasing that Bill and Claire, that no, that's not the business, and it doesn't always work out, you know, as a fairy tale with a fairy tale ending every time. So maybe this is about to be a change for her.
Yeah. Now, George, we'll start with you on this next question, but how has your parents' relationship influenced your own views on love and relationships?
So it's interesting because, like, I was watching the episode tonight, and what was it? Was it their 35th anniversary?
Something like that.
It was something like 35.
They were some old niggas, something like that.
And so it's interesting because my parents just celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. Yeah, and I often think about it because most of my friends don't have that. Most of my friends who I grew up with don't have parents who are still together. It's just not. It's not a normal thing in the Black family dynamic. And I grew up in a little city in Jersey called Plainfield. And even now, like, most of my friends, like, we can't believe your parents are still married because, like, none of us have that. So watching their dynamic, though, you know, I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, I've seen them go through, which is kind of interesting. Like, because when I watched Molly tonight, I'm like, so you ain't never seen a rough patch? Like, you ain't never seen nothing? Because, I mean, you know, we've had some rough times where things just was strained a little bit and things just wasn't right. But we always were able as a family to kind of right the ship. They both went through some serious medical conditions in 2015. And that was kind of when I watched my dad like step up and sit at the hospital for 18 hours a day when my mom had brain surgery. And then 2 months later, he had like a really, really, really bad heart situation. And then she, right after brain surgery, was sitting up at the hospital 18 hours a day. And that was kind of what taught me like what like the quality of love is. Like, some of the other stuff is so minuscule, like the cheating and yeah, like it just gave me a different perspective. But I think the biggest thing it taught me was like that communication is key. And so it's like, if you do need other options in the bedroom, like to discuss that, because everything else that builds the relationship just means so much more. Like the sitting in the hospital, like that's the type of shit I want. Like I want somebody that's worried about me. That's, you know, when I'm laid up in a hospital, that's what I'm looking for. So it just gives you a whole nother perspective around like, oh, you cheated on mom. It's like, yeah, but I also, you know, held her down and took care of the kids and she got to stay at home. She got to, you know what I mean? It's like, does that one little thing invalidate all of the other things that are encompassing in a relationship? So that's kind of what I've learned. You know?
But you can't minimize cheating though. Cheating is a big fucking deal. It ain't like, you know what I'm saying? Like you forgot to take out the trash. That's a little thing. Cheating is a big fucking deal in a relationship. That's a violation. That's a violation of trust.
I'm learning but I'm learning as I'm getting older. Like, yes, it is a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as I thought. Like, you know, I think back in the day, I would have thought like, oh, you cheat, it's over. Yeah. I just don't feel that way anymore. It's like, oh, you cheat. I'm kind of like, oh, you cheated. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because could I be a cheater if shit wasn't right? Probably. So it's like, I can't just be like, you know what I mean? It's like people, shit, yo. No, but seriously, but people want to sit on that, you know, like on the high horse, like, oh, I would never. It's like, yeah, you would. Like, have you ever cheated on your taxes? You ever cheated on your this? You ever did this? Okay. Like, you know, we all do things to cheat in a sense, somebody. We cheat in friendship sometimes. We cheat on other things. We just don't look at them in that light. But I do think like sometimes it's like, okay, am I hurt? Yes. But should there be some type of communication about this hurt and like how this even came about? I think that's an absolute yes, because let's be clear, like we all do stupid shit when we drunk. And if somebody's really cute, do I have the capacity as a drunk person to be like, oh no, I'm married, or oh no, if I'm, you know what I mean? Like I just, as an adult, I now understand things a little bit differently than I did as a 25-year-old. You know what I mean? Like things that I would have been like, oh no, you should, I don't care how drunk you were. You should, nah, like, listen, I've done some stupid shit drunk. and sat
Like-
down to myself and be like, why the fuck did you do that? Oh,
Like
you
fuck
were
ugly
drunk.
niggas.
Like fucking ugly niggas.
Like fucking ugly niggas. Alex, what about you? How has your relationship or your parents' relationship molded your perspective and how you view love?
It's actually interesting, George, what you were mentioning as far as like you want somebody that's down for you, sitting up beside you in the hospital, cared about you when you laid up and shit like that. Like that's been a huge part of my parents' marriage. My mother's had lupus since she was a teenager, and so like that's been a huge part of all of our lives. But my dad has been there like every single step of the way. He's been there when I had my lupus scare, when my sister had her issues, her medical issues, and with my mother's, the often unpredictable nature of lupus, like, but he's always been there. And so, yes, like you said with George, George, I've never seen them fight. Like they're still together. Like you said, a lot of my friends don't have that. Very few of my close friends, their parents are still together. They were, I think, married maybe like 2 years before my sister got married. So going on like over 35 years. I forget what year, maybe 1980 they got married. But yeah, it's definitely showed me like what's possible, that you can have that. And it showed me, just that I don't know, the power of love and just like the things that it just requires you to do and compels you to do, like as a head of household, as a father, as the person in charge of taking care of everyone. So it's definitely influenced my beliefs, and it's definitely like got me really excited about fatherhood, for example. Like I'm trying to be somebody's fucking dad within 3 to 5 years. So all of that because I've had a great fucking example of like parents and, both the marriage and, just what that relationship could be like. So it's definitely showing me like what's out there. And but also I'm not on some picture. I know that every marriage isn't like that. My sisters didn't last, so I know shit happened. So
I think that my perspective on relationships has definitely been influenced by my parents. Without going into detail, because I don't want to spill my parents' tea because it's not my place, but they have been divorced for a long time. I was probably about 19 whenever I went into the military, and when I left, I remember my mom being like mad depressed or whatever. And afterwards, subsequently, they ended up divorced. So like I said, it's not my place to go into the details or anything like that. But, definitely seeing that schism and seeing the effect that it had on my mom, it definitely like made me view relationships differently. So I can and especially like becoming an adult and then finding out like more details about what exactly went down at a more mature stage. Because initially when I found out, I remember like going back to Oklahoma, and this is like after I was in the military. So I'm already like, working out like crazy. I'm learning how to like kill niggas and fucking pull out toenails and shit, and how to like I'm ready to just go out there and just like chop a nigga's head off. And I remember like driving around looking for my dad, like, if I see this nigga, it's on now. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna kill this nigga. So yeah, definitely had an effect on how I viewed love, because, kind of like Molly, like you see something that you believe is picture perfect, and then you find out it's not. But our situation was way more dramatic than that. But moving right along, while being nosy on his phone during jury duty, Lawrence finds out that Issa is still fucking Daniel. Lawrence confides in his homeboy that he believes Issa might have been smashing Daniel for a hot minute while they were actually still together. But to his surprise, his homeboy reveals that he relates with Issa because Lawrence was basically a bum-ass nigga for 2 years. So now we have an interesting role reversal in which Lawrence is now stuck on a woman he loves, but Issa isn't giving him the time of day. So how do we feel about this situation that Lawrence is going through?
Well, one, I think Lawrence is going through the situation because I feel like Molly lied to Issa, because
she did,
but we don't know yet. Remember,
she did.
Oh, you think okay? So Molly probably lied to Issa, and so Issa doesn't even know that Lawrence is available to her.
Go ahead.
At this point, and so I think Issa's not constructively not trying to fuck with Lawrence. I think Lawrence is on one end like thinking, Issa don't want to fuck with me anymore. And then Issa on the other end thinking, Lawrence don't want to fuck with me anymore. And really in the middle is just Molly, like, whose ideals of cheating is probably like, you two can't ever be together because somebody cheated. As we've now watched the way she reacted to her parents, which is also interesting because that probably means that she probably feels some type of way about Issa cheating on Lawrence and has never said it. But now back to this discussion. I mean, I don't really feel bad for Lawrence. Like, I've never really felt bad for Lawrence. Like, that whole 2 years sitting on the couch. I mean, I just don't get it. It's like,
True.
But again, like, I'm with the friend. Like, you was sitting on her couch for like, you kind of left the door open for somebody who had a better, just somebody ambitious, you know what I mean? Like, somebody ambitious to step in, like, that was doing something to kind of sweep her off her feet because she was coming home to you every day. So, you know, I get it. Issa was still wrong for cheating, absolutely. But I don't know how I would react in a situation with somebody who just was sitting on my couch every day for 2 years. I would probably be like, fuck you too. So, I don't know.
So putting this into context though, like if you're Lawrence, right? You're with your girl for years. You find out she's fucking some other nigga. Y'all go your separate ways and you missing her, but then you find out she's still fucking with this nigga. So it's like, how do you move on? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, even in trying to pursue her again, it's like, not only did you violate our relationship, but you still choosing to entertain this nigga. Like, that's wild foul. You know what I'm saying?
Lawrence was entertaining someone too, because like Tasha didn't just pop up after the fact. Like, Lawrence was playing flirty with Tasha for a minute and was waiting for the door to open as well. Like, I don't believe like he didn't see the signs that the banker was throwing at him all those weeks and months when he was hanging out with Tasha and divulging his feelings and all of that. It was like, I don't know. Like, this seems a little bit.
It's definitely a situation that he should have been leery of, but he didn't. Fortunately enough for him, he didn't cross any boundaries. So at the end of the day, he can say, my hands are clean. I didn't do shit until afterwards. But I mean, I get your point, though. I definitely get your point. Alex, what you got?
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for him either. I do think that, you know, he's going through his little emotions and shit like that. I think that as far as him not being able to move on, like, he went searching for that. He went scrolling through her page, through her social media, lurking, seeing what she's up to in her business, and he saw some shit he didn't want to see. Now he's in his feelings. Yeah, I just think he has to deal at this point. I think that either he needs to deal and they need to figure that shit out, or, you know, they need to be grown ups and sit down and have this talk and see if there's something they can move forward. Because it's, you know, there's who knows what possibilities will happen if you actually just sit down and have an open honest conversation with someone.
You know what though? Let this be a lesson in that mind your motherfucking business on social media. This is exactly why when I'm not fucking with you, I don't go on your page. I don't go at your pictures. I don't want to see shit, because it's just like, yo, I'm the type of person that I will like obsess over stuff. If I see something or if I know something, I will like obsess over it. And let this be a lesson. If the person ain't in your life, y'all not fucking with each other like that no more, especially after it's been like this prolonged period of time, you got to leave that shit alone, because it ain't going to end well.
Yeah, just spare yourself the heartbreak. I mean, you know she's not a nun out here. You're not a monk out here. You know, things are happening. And unless you want to get your feelings hurt, like you said, mind your motherfucking business.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, I can't answer this question because I've never been on the receiving end of one. But is a dick pic ever worth totaling your car over?
No.
No,
it's never that serious.
And like you at the red light, you look at it at the red light, and if it's time for you to go, you put the phone down. And when you get to the next red light, you look at it again. I mean, unless she was on Snapchat and was fearing it was going to disappear, like, I just don't know what Issa was thinking.
That's funny. All right, so what can we expect from the next episode, gentlemen? Let's wrap this up.
I think that Molly's gonna have some guilt about what she did as far as fucking Dro. I think we're probably gonna learn a little bit more about the nature of their marriage, and it probably won't be to Molly's liking. Continuing, which I think will continue her reality check with, you know, everything is not all roses, everything is not all picture perfect, and shit, you know, shit is sweet. Things are complex. People are complex. Like, this is adulthood. Grow the fuck up. This is not the Cosby Show. And I also, again, just because, like I said, I just hope that Issa gets some quality D in the next episode. George?
Yeah, I think Issa's going to have to come to terms with what Daniel actually wants versus what he's trying to pretend he wants from her. I think we're probably going to see at some point Molly's demise, because I think between her family life being effed up, her fucking the friend's husband, and the fact that I think that the lie that she told Issa and Lawrence is going to come out soon, I think we're going to see kind of the reverse of how, remember, Molly stopped fucking with her last season. I think we're going to see Issa stop fucking with Molly. But I think all of that is going to start to come to a head in the next episode.
All right. And yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing how this eminent Candace Molly Dro showdown is going to look. I'm definitely interested in seeing how Issa continues to blossom in her, her newfound liberation. Lawrence has been catching some L's the last couple episodes, so I'm definitely looking at seeing him trying to rebound and trying to figure things out. And I definitely don't think we've seen the last of Tasha either. So I wouldn't be surprised if she miraculously, her and her beautiful breasts miraculously appear. Yeah, and I just definitely want to see how Molly, how Molly's perception of love changes and evolves as a byproduct of all this stuff. But I mean, like I said, this is a great show, very well written, and it's beautiful to see how 3 different people navigate through their different perceptions and different experiences of insecurity. So thank you, George, for coming through. Where can people find you at?
Well, I usually roam on Twitter, so I am GM Johnson. I am GM Johnson on Instagram and George M. Johnson on Facebook.
All right, bet. That's what's up. And of course, actually, Alex, tell everybody where they can find us at.
You can find us on the extraordinarynegroes.com, of course, where you can find our essays and all of our episodes up to this point. You can also subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, or your platform of choice. Also, we are The Extra Negroes on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook as well as The Extraordinary Negroes.
And yeah, that's about it. So peace. Thanks y'all for listening.
Peace.